Hey everybody, I've been messing around with some more nature-based stuff, and while there are a few default trees in Talespire, if you're looking to add some fresh looks to your boards, I wanted to share a few trees and a few tips for trees that I've been using in Talespire. The first, easiest, and probably my favorite look is this maple tree. It only takes a minute to make, and if you do 4 or 5 of these, you can copy-paste them into your board and have a really unique look to each of them. I start with a trunk base, and then I add a skinny tree on top, a dead tree, just for height. You're not going to see this in the finished tree. Then I go from top to bottom here. It might be easier to go bottom to top, but you just place these piles of dead leaves over top of the tree. It's easy and it's done. The second, and probably the most tedious one, is a weeping willow, or a kind of viney swamp tree. This one takes a little more patience, and you might have to redo a lot of the stuff you hang on it, because it's pretty easy to end up looking a little too uniform. I start with a dead tree with a lot of branches, and then I take the horizontal vines and I put them along any branches that are long enough to hold them. Then I take the smaller vertical vines and I hang them alternating left and right from either side of each branch on the tree until I get the whole thing covered up. Some of them you want to put backwards because the back side of the vine actually looks pretty cool and has like a more ropey look or texture to it. You can see here I'm rotating it just a few inches at a time. If you hold down the Alt key while you're holding any of the placeable objects, you'll be able to rotate that object almost 360 degrees, rather than just the 4 preset rotations that you can get by clicking in your center mouse button. Once I'm satisfied with the placement of the smaller vertical vines, I will take the larger, the extra long one, and I hang just a few of those in places where they'll kind of stand out. And following the larger vertical vine, I'll take the vine that hangs in kind of a U shape. And you can see when you hang those that it's easier to do it from the top because you can see where that larger vine is going to be gripping on the branches, and it allows you to place it a lot easier. Here's those larger vertical vines. You can see at some point I'm going to change some of the rotation on these right there. And it just makes it look less uniform, and then hang the hanging vines like that. And it's done. The third tree I want to show you looks a little bit more like a juniper or a bonsai tree, and I do the same thing I did with the previous one, except this time with ferns and flowers instead of the hanging vertical vines back there. Because the ferns take up so much more space, I start from the bottom and go up on this one. I use the same dead tree I used in the previous one, but pretty much any of the dead trees are going to work here, and I don't know if I said it earlier, but you can use the roots at the end of the nature section in the placeables to add more branches to any tree, just to give yourself more of a natural look or more options to work with to make your trees look more unique when you want to put them out in the field. This one's pretty quick to make, and when I finish putting the tree out, I put some flowers in it. Sometimes I'll use the purple ones, sometimes I like to use these. These ones I call the popcorn flowers. They don't really look like anything. I think they're supposed to be like lily pad flowers, but if you put them in here, you can wedge them into those leaves using the control key, and it'll change one flower into multiple little buds, and give it kind of a nice look like that. Now that we've got the 3 trees finished, I wanted to go over some lighting effects for trees. Because most tabletops are fantasy-based and probably full of magic trees, or magic creatures that live in trees. I don't know. I use these crystals, and I like to put them inside the tree, especially if I'm doing like an elven forest or something like that. You can use the blue or the green. You can use any of the lamps or lighting effects that are in there. And if you just wedge them into the tree, I'll put it dark so you can see easier. It just gives different effects that kind of look cool. The second tip is to add vines and leaves to your tree trunks. This might look a little strange right here, but I used to live in Florida, and these things are everywhere. On every tree trunk, you can see them here, you can see here, and they're everywhere, all over the place. So it might look strange on the board right now, but it's going to look more realistic if you add these to your trees. And the last thing I want to go over are these large tree trunks. They say swamp trunks. There's 2 of them. There's this one right here with this sort of arm branch. And there's a second one that looks a little more windy. These say swamp trees, but you can use them with any of the trees that I've just shown you to make a larger forest. You can just put these dead trees on top of them, again, just for height. You can put as many of them as you want. I just like to use them for a guide. You can add branches to them by using the root tool that I talked about earlier, just to give yourself a general idea of what you want this thing to be shaped like, and then you can reproduce anything that I showed you in this video, just on a larger scale. If you don't want those roots sticking up out of the ground, you can sink it into the ground when you copy-paste it. If you want to make a larger forest or a city with larger trees in it. And that's pretty much going to be it. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out. Please share your tips and tricks with me. I'm just learning as I go and making a video every time I figure out something. Maybe this is stuff you already knew, because, you know, sometimes I'm kind of dumb and I think, wow, that's really neat, but maybe everybody already knows it. So let me know what you're doing on your maps. Post screenshots, like link me your videos. I would love to see it. Absolutely loving Talespire and the community that's around it. So thanks for hanging out. We'll see you in the next video.